Congress is trying to push out the regimes of China's control over TikTok. A House committee is voting on the legislation today. Xcel Energy acknowledges a potential leak to Texas's largest wildfire. How did the utility's facilities come into play? The father of the Michigan high school shooter who killed 4 students is on trial for involuntary manslaughter. Opening arguments begin today. Congress passing a bill today named for the Georgia college student who police say was killed by an illegal immigrant. Mitch McConnell delivers harsh criticism of Biden's economy just before tonight's State of the Union. We'll bring you the details. Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Jack Bradley. Pushing out the Chinese regime's control of the video app TikTok. A House committee is voting on legislation today that would require TikTok's China-based parent company to give up control of the app. If it does not, TikTok will be taken off app stores. The House Committee on Energy and Commerce is voting on the bill that would give ByteDance 165 days to divest from TikTok. Congress's crackdown comes amid national security concerns that the app shares user data with the Chinese Communist Party. Senator Roger Marshall told NTD that he would support this bill if it comes to the Senate floor because it targets America's youth. That's as the content of TikTok in the U.S. is considered vastly different and more harmful from the version of TikTok in China.
I personally will support this. I'm a physician. The benefits of TikTok don't outweigh the risk. And I think, again, Americans need to understand that the Chinese Communist Party is trying to attack America on the air, the land, and the sea. And by that, I mean through espionage, through misinformation, through propaganda, and not a better way for them to do it than attack the vulnerable, which would be our youth. So that would be my concern with TikTok. It's not only attacking Americans, but specifically targeting our youth who are so vulnerable, and we need to do something to curtail it. I don't know any other way than just to ban TikTok. We'll see, but it's great that Speaker Johnson is leading the charge over there, and we'll look forward to considering it.
The White House praised the proposal. The Biden administration previously banned TikTok from all government-issued devices in February 2023. But getting legislation approved in an election year may be pretty difficult. Just last month, President Biden's campaign joined TikTok to attract younger voters. Biden's campaign is one of the 170 million TikTok users in the U.S. That's half of the U.S. population. TikTok has told its users to reach out to the representatives to complain about this proposal in Congress. Experts say we're going through a biotechnology revolution. That biotechnology will be the dominant science of the 21st century, transforming most industries and human lives. During a hearing today with Washington lawmakers, biotech executives talked about the future of this technology.
Biology is the manufacturing technology of the next 50 years, but we need to build out these tools of design.
So biotech could be manufacturing semiconductors.
If you look out 50 years, absolutely.
Biotechnology is going to cause extraordinary advances in biomedicine, which we're already seeing. I think it's going to allow us to make materials with new properties that we can't even dream of. We're going to go way beyond Velcro. Virtually anything nature can do, biotechnology can do.
China explicitly vows to dominate the biotechnology revolution, and it's far ahead in one big way. It has the world's largest genome library, a collection of genetic information. Experts say the bigger the genome library, the more effectively AI can learn the language of DNA, and that the bigger the advantage that the country would have in the biotech revolution. House Republicans voting a short time ago passed a bill aimed at detaining illegal immigrants who steal or commit burglary. Now, the bill is named for the Georgia college student who police say was murdered by an illegal immigrant. House members are voting today on this bill. This requires illegal immigrants who commit burglary or theft be detained by police. House Republicans named the legislation after that Georgia student, Laken Riley, who police say was killed by a man illegally crossed the border. Police say 26-year-old Jose Ibarra from Venezuela allegedly came into this country illegally and killed Riley. He's being charged with murder, and it's the latest move by GOP lawmakers to put a spotlight on the situation at the southern border, a main issue in the 2024 election for president. Turning our attention now to the wildfires in Texas. Utility company Xcel Energy says its facilities likely started the Smokehouse Creek fire, now the largest blaze in the state's history. The company said in a statement today, based on currently available information, Xcel Energy acknowledges that its facilities appear to have been involved in the ignition of the Smokehouse Creek fire. Xcel Energy provides power and natural gas to parts of Texas and 7 other states. The company faces at least 2 lawsuits claiming it failed to properly maintain electrical infrastructure linked to the blaze. The Smokehouse fire has burned over 1 million acres since it erupted in the Texas Panhandle last month. It has been linked to 2 deaths and at least 64 homes destroyed. The company said a second fire, the Windy Deuce blaze, did not appear to have been started by its infrastructure. The father of the teenager who was convicted of killing 4 students at a Michigan high school almost 3 years ago begins his trial today. James Crumbley is pleading not guilty to 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter in the November 2021 mass shooting at Oxford High School.
Anna was 14 years old. Madison Baldwin, she was 17. Tate he was 16. Justin Schilling, 17 years old. These are the 4 students who never made it home that day. What happened inside that school was truly a nightmare come to life. But it didn't have to. That nightmare was preventable.
The prosecution alleges that James Crumbley had knowledge that his son could and would hurt other people, and that he failed to protect those people, that he failed to take steps to protect others. And ladies and gentlemen, that simply is not true.
Prosecutors argue that the shooter's parents are responsible for the deaths because they bought their son a gun, disregarding signs of his mental health. They also say that the father did not safely store the gun and ammunition. Now, his trial begins just weeks after his wife Jennifer was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Their son Ethan Crumbley is serving a life sentence for murder. President Biden will deliver the annual State of the Union address tonight. Officials say he will tout what he sees as the economic achievements of his first term. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the speech where Biden is expected to contrast his record with former President Trump's.
The address gives Biden an election year opportunity to present his administration's biggest wins directly to the American people. The United States economy has outperformed experts' expectations since a year ago, when many economists thought it would be undergoing a recession right now. The job market has surpassed expectations, with January witnessing an addition of over 350,000 jobs. The unemployment rate has stayed 4% for the past 24 months. The manufacturing sector is experiencing significant growth, and the stock market has rebounded, setting new records. But Americans aren't feeling so optimistic. In a recent CBS News survey, 65% of respondents recall the economy under Trump favorably, while only 38% felt the same about the economy under Biden. Inflation is at the core of their frustration. Americans are paying 18% more for goods and services compared to before Biden took office. And surging housing costs haven't helped either. Biden is also expected to draw contrast with former President Trump through tax policy in his address. White House officials say Biden will preview a proposed 2025 budget that includes cutting taxes for low-income Americans, while calling for wealthy Americans and large companies to pay more in taxes. The tax plans are expected to form a core part of Biden's re-election campaign, where he will contrast them with Trump's 2017 tax cuts, which critics argue benefited higher-income Americans. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Leading up to the State of the Union address, Senator Mitch McConnell criticized Biden's economic policies, reminding Americans that inflation has reached the worst it's been in over 40 years under Biden.
Working families will probably wonder whether the president has any regrets, whether he wishes he hadn't ignored his party's top economists and ran through trillions of dollars in left-wing spending, which brought on the worst inflation in 40 years. President Biden's 3 years in office have left American leadership a weaker brand and our resolve less a fearsome asset. And we'll be dealing with the consequences of his failures for years to come.
At Biden's State of the Union speech, it's reported that he'll announce that the United States will build a port on the shore of Gaza. Now, this port, which will be built by the U.S. military's engineers, will allow for humanitarian aid to be delivered to the region. Those deliveries will be shipped from a port in Cyprus. Join us, NTD's Steve Lance, for live coverage of Biden's State of the Union address and the Republican response tonight. We'll have lawmakers and our reporter live on the Hill and political analysis from Washington. Tune in today at 8 p.m. Eastern. A new Alabama law shields in vitro fertilization providers from lawsuits. It's in response to a recent court ruling that equated frozen embryos to children. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the legislation signed yesterday by Governor Kay Ivey.
It all began with a decision by the Alabama Supreme Court last month. The court ruled frozen embryos are human beings, and those who destroy them can be held liable for wrongful death. The ruling raised concerns about liabilities for clinics and prompted an outcry from patients and other groups. 3 major IVF providers paused services. The new law protects providers from lawsuits and criminal prosecution for the damage or death of an embryo during IVF services. State Representative Chris England criticized the legislation, saying lawmakers are playing lawsuit whack-a-mole.
You cannot specifically create immunity to address enough of the issues that lawyers are paid to spot in terms of filing lawsuits.
Republicans in the state legislature proposed the lawsuit immunity as a way to get clinics reopened, but they refused to take up a bill that would address the legal status of embryos. State Representative Wandalyn Gavan says she fears lawmakers are trying to incorporate their values and beliefs into the law.
But I'm also not in favor of supporting a bill that further deals with the issues of reproductive rights among women.
Republican Governor Kay Ivey remarked that she is pleased the law will ensure people can grow their families through IVF. And bill sponsor State Senator Tim Melson said he was elated to get women receiving treatments back on schedule. Doctors from Alabama Fertility, one of the clinics that had paused IVF services, watched as the bill got final passage. They said it will allow them to resume embryo transfers starting the next day. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Divisive, excessive, and ineffective. That's what the House Subcommittee on Higher Education and Workforce Development calls DEI initiatives on college campuses. DEI, or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion programs, have been criticized for dividing students into oppressors and oppressed. The subcommittee held a hearing on today, and House members seemed to spontaneously direct more of their questions toward Dr. Stanley Goldfarb, chairman of Do No Harm. Dr. Goldfarb spoke on the effect of DEI at medical schools. NTD's Chris Beers has the story.
Dr. Goldfarb had a warning for medical schools in his opening at today's hearing.
My message today is simple. DEI is dangerous everywhere, but it's most dangerous in medical school. Americans need to know exactly what's happening. Your future doctors are learning about divisive politics at the expense of life-saving care. They're being taught to discriminate by race, not treat patients equally. Ultimately, your future doctor is being trained to be an activist.
Dr. Goldfarb says the presence of DEI in medical education will ultimately lead to diminishing healthcare quality.
Medical schools are lowering admission standards in the name of diversity, too. Some have abandoned requiring the MCAT for all applicants, even though the MCAT is the best predictor of a student's ability to become a doctor.
Dr. James Murphy, Director of Career Pathways and Post-Secondary Policy at Education Reform Now, said at the hearing,
"At some institutions, DEI offices play a central role, a role demanded by law in ensuring that their college is in compliance with Title VI, Title IX, and the Americans with Disability Act."
Dr. Goldfarb had this to say when asked about the impact DEI initiatives are having on medical care.
I think what we're definitely seeing is a dramatic change in the character of medical education, which, if it hasn't played out yet in demonstrating a change in the quality of healthcare, it will in the very, very near future.
Chris Beers, NTD News.
Up next, a Brooklyn public high school experiences a surge of anti-Semitism, including death threats against Jewish students and teachers. A Jewish leader are condemning the chancellor of the new City Board on Education for not doing enough to stop the attacks. And the weakening of the Chinese market has led to the downsizing at another global financial firm. The world's second biggest economy faces a slew of economic headwinds. That and more after the break.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused youth often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no young person is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a young person. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show them they're loved. Homeless young people are afraid and alone with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now with your gift of $19 a month. We'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. Please don't wait. Your gift is the lifeline a young person needs now. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org. Thank you for saving precious lives.
Hi everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have live agents available right now to answer your questions and tell you how much your case is potentially worth. Hi, I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin with us in the Help Center. So Tom, phones are really busy over there. Tell us what kind of calls you're seeing.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the call center with you. We always enjoy talking to the viewers and getting folks the compensation that they deserve. You know, we're seeing calls about all kinds of accidents, but the most common by far has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, give us a call right now. You'll speak with a live person. They'll answer any questions you have and tell you if you have a case and how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. All right, folks at home, you heard it. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now.
The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, better known as NATO, has a new member. Sweden became a part of the organization today, now following decades of post-World War II neutrality. The White House says that Sweden joining NATO will make it the United States and its allies safer.
Good things come to those who wait. No better example. But with receipt of this instrument of accession, let me be the very first to welcome Sweden as a party to the Washington Treaty and the 32nd member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says that the Nordic country, quote, now enjoys the protection granted under Article 5. The ultimate guarantee of allies' freedom and security. Article 5 of NATO's treaty says all members must come to the aid of allies whose territory or security is under threat. It has only been activated once by the U.S. following the attacks on September 11th. It's a collective security guarantee that Sweden has been wanting since Russia invaded Ukraine. Morgan Stanley has laid off about 9% of its staff at its asset management business unit in China, as the country's spiraling stock market dampens prospects for its $3.8 trillion fund sector. Here's NTD's Don Ma with today's Business Brief.
All right, thank you very much. First off, the weakening of the Chinese market has led to a downsizing in another major global financial firm. Sources told Reuters that Morgan Stanley Investment Management China has laid off about 9% of its staff. According to the company disclosures, the assets managed by the Shenzhen-based unit have declined every quarter since its peak in 2021, and earnings results showed that the unit operated at a loss of nearly 49 million yuan in 2022 and a loss of 23 million yuan the following year. The sources said that the cuts started in December and has impacted about 15 employees. Morgan Stanley declined to comment. Meanwhile, voters will be tested this election cycle as a new report reveals how easy it is to use AI tools to make fake election-related images. A tech watchdog group tested 4 tools and found more than 40% of the time the tool would generate a misleading image. The Center for Countering Digital Hate discovered the tools were more likely to create pictures depicting election fraud, like trashed ballots, than images with candidates. Researchers tested Midjourney, Stability AI's Dream Studio, OpenAI's ChatGPT+, and Microsoft Image Creator. Each one has protections in place and said they are adding more or are working to prevent abuse. But researchers are calling current protections inadequate. And with the presidential rematch set for November, global markets are preparing for the possibility of former President Donald Trump to return to the White House. Trump back in the Oval Office could mean more tariffs. He has said he would consider 60% tariffs on Chinese goods on top of the $200 billion he imposed in his first term, which Biden kept in place. Researchers estimate that would shave off 0.7% of China's GDP. European policymakers as well are also concerned Trump could reimpose tariffs or impose new tariffs. Europe would also look to boost military spending in a Trump second term. Trump has suggested he won't defend allies who fail to spend enough money on their own defense. Back to you.
Thank you, Don. A Brooklyn public high school is experiencing a surge of anti-Semitism, including swastika graffiti and death threats against Jewish students and teachers. Jewish civil rights leaders and advocates are calling on New York City public schools to do more to address the hatred. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more.
A Jewish civil rights organization named End Jew Hatred and the New York City Public School Alliance held a demonstration yesterday in Brooklyn. The coalition is sounding the alarm on the rise of anti-Semitism in city schools.
There is just an issue with systemic Jew hatred in our New York City public schools. Seemingly every day there's something else coming out of one of the public schools, one of the PS, all different districts.
End Jew Hatred is demanding accountability from the New York City Department of Education and its Chancellor David Banks, following disturbing reports of anti-Semitism at Origins, a public high school in Brooklyn.
We will not and cannot be silent, and we need to see change. We need to see systemic change so that, everybody in our community is protected.
So how are the New York City public school system and Chancellor David Banks failing to protect Jewish students from anti-Semitism and violence at school?
Things are going on within these schools, whether it is a teacher or paraprofessional spewing hate that is guised as, guised as some sort of social justice, or guised as what, but it's Jew hatred. So using, just terminology that is not okay regarding Israel, a map being put up without Israel on it. These, innuendos that are just, this is systemic hate that impressionable children are being taught. And when there's no accountability, that's where the failure is occurring, Andrew.
Adud expressed her frustration at what she believes is an apathetic attitude from Banks.
About a month and a half ago, we held a rally, again, in conjunction with, we're representing parents, students, teachers. We were outside Chancellor Banks' office. You can just hear the pain in the students' voices as they spoke, in the teachers' voices, in the parents' voices, everybody. And we never even received a response. And things have just even, spiraled, downward spiral since then.
What are your demands for New York City public schools and Chancellor David Banks?
Well, short-term demands, we do have some demands in regards to training. We have some demands in regards to accountability, holding teachers, faculty, students accountable for this hatred. But the first demand is a meaningful meeting, sit down face to face, meaningful meeting to see how change can be made, with all of our constituents. This is the only way that we could move forward in, any amicable way, united.
2 teachers have filed lawsuits against Origins High School. The New York City Department of Education is investigating, but says accusations of anti-Semitism at the school have been blown out of proportion. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Jack Bradley. We'll have more stories from the U.S. and around the world. Stay tuned for NTD Evening News with Tiffany Meyer at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. We'll see you next time.